awarding the face-off on the track winner. So startups have been pitching throughout these 2 days, and the winner will be awarded $25,000. So some big money on the main stage this afternoon. First of all, kicking off with a panel on sourcing for growth, we have Cameron Mirza of the University of Bahrain and his heavy-hitting panelists. Welcome to the stage, Cameron. I'll let you introduce your guys. Thank you very much. One thing. Please make sure you download the app for any agenda changes and big news that we want to share. Search Unbound Festivals in the App Store and choose the Unbound Bahrain option. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
How's everyone doing today? Good, good. I think it's going to be a super exciting day, and I'm really hoping that one of our students wins the hackathon. I'm really hoping. That's going to be a great news story for this last couple of days. So look, I'm just going to set the context for this conversation this morning, just before I introduce my colleagues on stage. So at the end of 2007, there was a survey done by Bayet.com for the Middle East, and it was focused around entrepreneurship, and the #1 barrier for people setting up a business in this part of the world is access to funding. 53%. So that was the #1 issue. So the point of this conversation this morning is to try and understand what we can do differently, what we can do better. Is it a myth? Is it a load of misinformation out there? Does opportunities exist for funding? And I'm particularly excited by this because I've got 26,000 students next door at the university, and a lot of them are super eager to become entrepreneurs. What can they take away from today? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the panel members. We've got Mr. Afif Bahami from UNIDO. We have Douglas Hanson-Luke from Future Planet Capital. We've got our good friend Ahmed Janahi, and we've got Walid Mansour. I'm just going to hand the opportunity over now to our colleagues just for briefly introduce themselves and their organisations. We'll start with Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So I'm Ahmed Janahi from Tamkeen. I think the majority of the people here are from Bahrain. They understand what Tamkeen is. Tamkeen is the National Labour Fund. It is tasked basically with helping the private sector to become the engine of the economy, and the individuals, the Bahraini individuals, to become the leaders of that private sector. We'll be talking further about how we support the businesses generally in a minute, inshallah.
Good morning. My name is Walid Mansour. I'm a partner and CIO at Middle East Venture Partners, MEVP. We're a venture capital company based in Dubai with a reach all over the Middle East. We invest in early stage and growth technology companies in the areas of internet businesses, software as a service, generally tech businesses. And historically, we've been invested in more than 40 companies all across the Middle East. And we currently manage 5 funds, a total AUM base of more than $220 million to date.
Thank you. Douglas.
So I'm Doug Hanson-Luke. I'm the founder of Future Planet Capital. Future Planet is a platform to connect the inventors and the science from the world's leading universities to great companies that can actually make an impact on the world, addressing things like climate change, education, health, security, and sustainable growth. Since we started, and we are a startup, since we started 2 years ago, we've deployed $100 million around Cambridge and Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Stanford, Tsinghua, and the UCAL system. And we're here looking for partners in areas that Bahrain is strong, areas such as energy, climate change, where we could find local businesses and firms that would partner with us. And I'm particularly happy to be here because I spent 6 years of my life in Bahrain, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Sabah al-Khair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Afif Farhoumi, and I work for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. We're set up in 1996 in Bahrain, so we've been here for the past 21 years. By the year 2000, our main duty was to promote investment to the region, in Bahrain in specific. And then we realized that you really need to work on developing new breed of entrepreneurs. So by 2000, we launched the Arab International Center for Entrepreneurship, which implements entrepreneurship and innovation programs in 52 countries around the world from Bahrain. We work from Uruguay, Africa, Middle East, all the way up to China. We have 300 centers in China that give entrepreneurship. By April, we'll be launching a center in Shenzhen. Those who know Shenzhen, Shenzhen is very similar to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, but Shenzhen is connected to Hong Kong, 10-minute bridge. Shenzhen is the leading city in the world today in innovation. Their growth rate is much higher than any city around the world. 90% of your electronics are manufactured and designed in Shenzhen. So we're launching the first center in Shenzhen in April, and we have a lot of experiences around the world when it comes to entrepreneurship, innovation, financing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll agree we've got a great panel. Let's get down to business. We'll start over there with Ahmed. We've got a lot of people here. They want to know, what can your organization do to help them get funding?
So I'll start first by talking about sources of funding generally, if I may. So what do you think? How do you think that the individuals, the entrepreneurs can get funding? I think generally people would think first of all finding an investor or venture capitals. The second thing, they'd look for a bank, they'd look for a financing organization to give them part of that as a loan. But that's dangerous by itself. If you get a partner in the business, then you'd lose part of the incomes later on, and you might even lose control on your business. You've seen all the story of Steve Jobs, for example, where he was kicked out of his own business at a point of time. And if you get a financing organization, they still need their money from the first year. That's not a bad thing, but have you thought of that while doing it? So one of the sources of funding as well is the government funds that's provided to the individuals. And I think we're very glad and proud in Bahrain that we have organizations, governmental organizations that can support with that. One of those organizations is Temkeen. Temkeen can support with 50% of the operational infrastructure of the business. So what I'm saying is, if you're an entrepreneur in Bahrain and you're planning to open your business, cut off 50% of the cost of that actual business. Take away 50% of the cost of the machinery. Take away 50% of the cost of the marketing. Because Temkeen is there, and Temkeen will support you with that, and with many other things as well. In addition to the business development part, which is 50% of the cost of the operational infrastructure, we support with employment as well. We can support up to 70% of the salaries of your employees if you need a couple of people to help you in the business. One of the very interesting things, probably this is the first time for us in Temkeen to mention it in a public session, would be that we're working with our partners in the Economic Development Board and some other partners as well in Bahrain to create an MVP fund, an MVP product to support entrepreneurs, not just from Bahrain, but from all around the world, to get few thousand dinars to start piloting their thoughts and putting it together and introducing it to the market. One of the other sources of funding, maybe not through Temkeen, but through the market in general, is crowdfunding by all means. We're very glad and pleased in Bahrain that we have the first regulated crowdfunding system in Bahrain and in the Gulf region. So that's another untapped source of funding that probably local entrepreneurs have not tried yet. I think the ecosystem in Bahrain, UNIDO, BDB, Temkeen, EDB, and others, Tenmu, and many other entities within the ecosystem can use that to get funds. Not to forget, I've seen Hassan Haidar at the back, so I would definitely say angel investment is definitely as well one of the sources of funding.
Thank you, Ahmed. Waleed, what can you do to help young entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs get access to funding?
I think the support does not have to be elite.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
I didn't hear that.
It's okay. Just one caveat. Because I'm a venture capital company, my mandate is not to. My mandate is to generate profits for my investors. So we're a for-profit company, not a non-profit company. So that's a very important distinction. And so I'm going to talk from my point of view, and you have other points of views around the table. The responsibility that we have towards our investors is to make the right investments, and eventually those companies can grow, and hopefully they will become something big that we can exit and return the capital. And in that journey, the expectations have to be aligned. The entrepreneurs and the teams that are looking for funding from a venture capital company have to have that same journey in mind. So we're in it to build a business, not to build a university or a supporting program, so that has to be. This is a clear distinction. So how can we support eventually? By building big businesses in the technology industry in the MENA region, you create a new generation of entrepreneurs and people who work for those entrepreneurs that build knowledge, and with time, when they, when the wealth is materialized and they hopefully exit or monetize their efforts, and I've seen it in the past here in the Arab world, they become themselves angel investors and supporters for another ecosystem. So I think it's very important to have a very strong business community in the technology sector in the Arab world, because that core community will open the doors for young and not that young entrepreneurs to work for them, to learn, and to develop other products. The average age of the entrepreneurs we have invested in over the 40-plus investment we did is actually 38 years old. We counted that recently. So, and it sounds weird, but because it goes against the VC image of supporting young people and supporting the college dropout that wants to go and conquer the world. Reality is, in order to build a big business, and in order to go and take money from investors and manage that expectation and deliver on the plans and be able to manage partnerships and build strong teams, you need help. So my advice to young people, and I've been there and I started that, is that building a startup out of university is not necessarily the way to go. I think it's very important for young people in the Arab world who are in universities to actually spend their 20s and spend their first years to go and get some exposure and some experience with others. Those others could be a small startup, it could be an internship in another country, it could be go travel, it could be work for Apple, for that matter. It is extremely important, and that would be my advice. There has to be a very, there has to be a learning curve post-university. And if you allow me, just a second point on the funding side. Funding is never an issue if you're doing things right. I see companies and startups, we see 700-800 companies a year. We invest in 4 or 5. The 4 or 5 that we invest in are usually companies that have, because they're doing things well, that have access to options. They can go and raise from investors because they're doing something well. Their product is great, their traction is great, their team is good, their customers are happy, their suppliers are there, the culture in the company is thriving, employees are lining up to work for them, there is growth. So the availability of capital is a result to an effort. It's not a right. Money doesn't grow on trees. And to build up the expectations early on that you can go and get funding, and as funding is some sort of a right, it's wrong.
Okay, thank you, Willie. So, Douglas, and we'll try and be concise in this because there's a lot of questions that we want to try and get through. Would-be entrepreneurs, what's your take on it in terms of getting funding?
I normally like to bring people, but I have to disagree with Waleed on the funding side of things and also on the experience. I say be audacious. Start a company now if you want to. It didn't do any harm to Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, to the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. All of them did that straight from university. We don't invest in people straight from university. We're chickens. We wait a little bit longer. We wait until the company's successful. But these people all did it as entrepreneurs when they were young. But the question of funding, whether it's public funding or grant funding or venture funding, if you're looking to start a business these days, there is more money available than you actually need. So I've got 3 words of advice that you should look for. The first is listen to the investors. Be investor-led. And I'll come back and explain that in some detail. Be purposeful and partner for growth. So what do I mean by being investor-led and listening to them? I don't mean do what the investors tell you to do. I mean listen, because there is some funding, such as Tamkeen, which won't take equity out of your business. It won't be dilutive. There'll be research funding from universities or from governments. There's a huge amount of that in this region. So whenever you can, take funding from people who aren't going to take your equity. I think the British government are one of the sponsors of this event. They're also providing funding and cheap debt for businesses here in the region. The second part of that is if you're listening to a venture capitalist, and this is where I do agree with Waleed, they want to make money. It's incredibly important for them that they're not investing with a dreamer, they're investing with a girl or a boy who actually wants to make money, who wants to make a profit, because their duty is to their end investors. So when you're taking money from someone, don't say what you think they want you to say, listen to what they want and think, does this match what my business is going to do? Does this match what I can deliver? And that then links to a sense of purpose. Whether you're a government, whether you're Tamkeen, whether you're ultra-high net worth individuals, typical angels, or whether you are millennials, people nowadays want to invest with a sense of purpose. Align yourself to something that's actually going to make the world a better place and will make you feel good about what you're doing, create societal value, and you will find it much easier to succeed, both with funders and with your business. And then finally, don't forget your business. Partner for growth, and remember always that revenue is the best form of funding, and retained profits even better. So partner for growth. Find people who will give you a pilot, who will give you a market entry opportunity, who will give you your first revenue contract. So much more important than spending most of your time trying to get funding, because the funding is out there.
Thanks, Douglas. Afif, let's be clear about UNIDO. You're not in the money lending game as such, but there's a lot of opportunities that people can tap into. Can you just share with our audience and people watching around the world, what are those opportunities that people can tap into?
I'm not going to go on the discussion between the VC funds and the guys with the people with the money. For us, from our own experience, and especially in the MENA region and even worldwide, funds are there. The dollar sign is there. There is money. Let's be very frank about it. The issue is accessing that money. It's me going to Waleed and convincing Waleed and Douglas to fund me. That's the problem. And Waleed, don't take it personal. VC funds, equity funds, whatever funds you want to call them, they take the tip of the iceberg. They take the best of the best of the best of the best. So accordingly, you're looking at a 1%, let's say. What's going to happen to the 99%? They're going to go home a little bit more unmotivated, depressed. This is where the role of UNIDO comes in. And this is where the role of Tamkeen, BDB, and the rest of us comes in, is we provide the non-financial services. The challenge is, how can I make someone bankable? Bankable to an investor, bankable to a fund. We have an experience now in India with the Confederation of Indian Industries. You know, Confederation of Industries is one of the biggest private sector setups in India. We are working with them and Infosys. I don't know if anybody knows Infosys. Infosys has a strategy to invest $1 for every dollar spent on an entrepreneur by the Indian government. Their main problem is that, where do we get these entrepreneurs from? And although India is a very big industry in IT, in Bangalore and whatever, we've been there, we've seen that. You have entrepreneurs, but they're not ready for the finance. You know, we're sitting here and you see all these nice, fancy Ferraris around. You don't expect me to drive the Ferrari and beat Michael Schumacher. I'm not ready. So for funding, you need three main components. You need a good quality entrepreneur with a very good idea, and then you need the funding. So what happens with our entrepreneurs is that they run to the funding. But you're not ready, my friend. Your idea is not clear. And I want to just, I'm sure everybody knows this, the fourth industrial revolution and the artificial intelligence that we live today, by 2030, we will lose 25% of engineering jobs. And that's a fact. So accordingly, we have to think outside the box, we have to develop non-financial services, and we have to innovate in the finance.
Thank you. Right. So I'm just going to ask the next question just for Waleed and Douglas. Okay. So we hear a lot of noise. Okay. Angel investors, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer, ecosystem. It's a lot of noise, right? So I just want to help the audience and people around the world just understand a couple of basic things. So if I can ask you to Waleed, can you explain the difference between VC funding, which is what you do, and peer-to-peer funding?
Peer-to-peer funding is just me deciding that I will give you my savings and because I like you.
Okay.
It could be as simple as this. So that's peer-to-peer funding. Anyone can fund or lend anybody else. Okay. It's just basic. Venture capital is, typically venture capital companies are companies that raise money from investors, so say sovereign wealth funds or banks or any investor, and deploy these funds into a portfolio of 15, 20 companies, whatever the number is. And they do it in the form of an investment, and they take equity in the company. So this is the distinction technically.
Great. Thank you.
But what the peer-to-peer basically is a less structured approach, but it can, you know, Kickstarter is an example. You can go and create something cool and get money because that's cool. And the venture capital route is more of a formal investment route, if I may simplify it this way.
That's a great explanation. And Douglas, can I just ask you to just explain what the difference between angel investors are and crowdfunding?
So angel investors are people who you hope have got a lot of life experience, who've made money themselves, and this distinction is very important, who can then add value to you and be your mentors. They will be the people that you come to, friends and family, or friends of friends and family who've got that money. So it's a very personal relationship. With crowdfunding, and I've personally, I guess as an angel, invested in Eureka, which is the region's crowdfunding platform. With crowdfunding, it's impersonal. You get to see the business plan, it's on a web portal. You put your money in a semi-structured way, so you have some of the discipline of venture investing, but you are doing it on a deal-by-deal basis, and it's really down to your understanding of what they put up on their platform and whether or not that's enough information for you to feel comfortable. It's greater risk, but it allows you to do more, and possibly usually in smaller size as well. So it's more democratic in a way. So those are the two differences, or the two vehicles. Be careful with both, but with angel investing, there are a lot of rich people out there. There are a lot of people in this region particularly who like to live their lives vicariously and be entrepreneurial through other people. Make sure, as I've said always, listen to your investors. Make sure you've got an investor that's aligned with what you want to do and that can truly add value. If you forget everything else, remember there's more than enough money out there today in the world for people with good ideas and good businesses which they can execute.
That's great advice. So I'm coming to the kind of like final part of this discussion now. And there's a couple of emerging themes that have come out of this discussion. You know, alignment of vision, look for the long term, not short term gains. But I want to leave the audience with some real tangible, solid advice. So if I'm a young or budding entrepreneur, what are the things that we should be looking to do to enhance our opportunities for funding? I'm going to take this from yourself, Hamad, and work all the way down to Afif. Final bits of advice.
If I may share 3 thoughts, actually those 3 thoughts are 3 out of 5 advices I got when I created my own business like 17 years back during university actually. So the first one I got was from my teacher. He was telling me that 80% of those who seek funding, the startups, the young startups who have thoughts, great thoughts, they have exactly what Waleed mentioned earlier, the attitude of entitlement. They think you owe them something and you have to give them money, and that doesn't work. The best way to raise funding is to create the right pitch and use it properly after probably going through the right networks, the right channel, and even knowing your audience in terms of who's the right entity to seek for funding. Is it a venture capital? Is it a government entity? Does it have to be specifically from your own country or not? That's one. The other thing is make sure that your numbers are right and you are using the right pitch deck. Most of the time when they come, they have unrealistic numbers, unrealistic thoughts and expectations. My last advice would be just like your market should not be limited to your own country because your country might not be big enough. Like Bahrain, for example, we have a limited size of market. The source of your fund should not be within your neighborhood or family or even your country. Think big when you are trying to seek funding as well.
Thank you. Waleed?
Sure. First of all, we never invest in ideas, we invest in people. So who is your team? What capabilities do they have? What's their background? Why are you together as a team? So typically we invest in teams. Second, we look at what we call, typically we don't invest at the idea stage even if the team is here. We've done that in the past, it's feasible, but it's not what we typically do. We look at the product, what we call traction or product market fit. So it is very important to explain that whatever that you built has customers or has a certain appeal. Revenue is not important initially in the tech industry. I know it's weird to say this, but we don't look at revenue necessarily at the early stage. We look at whether your product is really gaining momentum or market share, or it's being used by people, right? So that's 3. 4 is customer satisfaction. We actually call your customers, whether they are, whatever they are. We'll actually do that exercise and we'll talk to them and we'll understand how they're using your product, etc. Finally, and it's very important for us, is your ability to show that you are a good learner. We don't invest in people because we know their industry more than they do. Actually, we don't, right? So if I'm investing in somebody who needs my advice to do his business, that's probably a very bad investment because I need to invest in somebody who knows their business more than I do. Otherwise, I'll go do this business myself. So the ability to show that you know your business well and you're able to learn from it faster than we do and come back with the data and test things and show the data and have a data approach to your story, that's important. I think finally is, and this is very specific to the tech industry, is the size of the market, the nature of the products on the internet and software cannot make sense financially on the long run if they are going after small markets. So when you go after big markets, also have to be explained how are you going to go tackle these big markets one by one. What is that? We typically fund through stages as well. That's important to know. Don't expect a VC to give all the money up front. Very rarely this happens. There's always runways and milestones that have to be met. That's why we always do Series A and B and C and keep on growing this company.
Thank you. Douglas, final bits of advice?
Think big, but be humble. So we've heard about ideas and we've heard about execution. When you've got an idea, link that idea to something bigger, something that's a growing market, something that's got societal value. If you're addressing a big market, if you're creating true value, then your business has room to grow. So have a big idea, but make it bigger than yourself. When you're recruiting people, hire people that are better than you. Have the best. That's an ambitious, that's audacious, hire the best. And make sure they're better than you. That's very humble. And then finally, have the best, biggest network you can. So much of what you do can be accelerated, advanced. You can achieve your audacious dreams, but do it with other people. Be humble enough to realize you can't do it all on yourself, all on your own. So it's about the big ideas. It's about working with the best people, and it's about expanding through networks and through partners. Shared value.
Thanks. Afif, final few words from yourself.
I don't know how many keywords are still to say. One of the things I'll say is be proactive. Develop a network. Think outside the box. Create. Innovate. Link with yourself with a mentor, with a business counselor who can give you advice technically. And no matter how small the person is, no matter how small the idea is, take it and consider it. I take ideas from my 9-10-year-old son, and sometimes they have very nice ideas. So you have to build on these things in order to be bankable. And this is one of the key points. Not only run for the funding is there, you can get the fund, but you have to really prepare yourself. Last word, happy Women's International Day. We have a big number of ladies in the back.
Thank you. I just want to try and summarize some key messages for our students. I hope you're not UOB students who have turned up just now. Think big, okay? Think about scale. Invest in people. Key thing is about networking. Key thing is about being humble. Key thing is about being innovative. And finally, whoever you borrow your money off, make sure that you've got the same vision. You're aligned and you know where you want to go together as a team. It only remains for me to thank my colleagues on stage. It's incredibly hot up here. So I thank them for their time, and I hope it's been beneficial to everyone here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very profound words. We do have quite a lot of people standing at the back, so if people wouldn't mind moving forward, it would be great to make some room there at the back. Thank you very much. Next up, we have stories of startup success from around the world. So with some tales, some tips and tricks, please welcome to the stage Ramesh of Business Accelerator Flat 6 Labs, which launched its program in Bahrain yesterday, and his panelists. Please put your hands together. Thank you very much.
I think it might be easy to sit on the same side, but we can sit here.
It's up to you. What's your best angle? What's your best angle?
Doesn't matter. I guess we'll do it like this, and we can. The model, so I know.
Oh wow!
Okay. All day long.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks so much Unbound and Startup Bahrain for organizing all the amazing activities this week and this great conference. So this panel is focused on global startup stories, and we're very lucky to have two entrepreneurs with us today, one from the United States and one from here from Bahrain, Nada and Gabrielle. I'll just give you a quick overview about our panelists today, and then we'll move right away to the questions and hear the stories of our panelists here. So Nada is a a great successful Bahraini entrepreneur. She started her career in oil and gas and family businesses, and then moved to have her own, I think, fashion line or focus on luxury items with a very nice local touch. She was recognized by Hamad bin Rashid Awards and as a young business leader, and also she received the Female Entrepreneurship Seal from Her Majesty Princess Sabika. She also sat on the boards of EDB, Bahrain Bourse, and she was the president of the Rotary Club of Bahrain. Gabriel here, he is the...
One day I took up art as a hobby, and I was exposed to it so much to the point that I was surrounded by all this beauty, and I felt it was almost selfish not to share it with the rest of the world. So from that feeling, that feeling of, you know, this is so beautiful, why aren't we recognized for all of this beautiful art? Why are we as a culture labeled, you know, in the Middle East in a certain way? How can we have our real beautiful picture of this region through our art and announce it and make it?
But I'm sure everyone would love to hear it, yeah.
The right news.
It's a very special gathering, so we have to hear it.
Yes, I'm supposed to keep it for the right noise, but I'm very proud to say that our products are being sold at the Louvre Museum at this point. So I'm very happy and grateful.
I think that's amazing news. Moving to Gabriel, and you came all the way from New York. Would love to know more about your story, how you have gone so far, and yeah, please.
Awesome, thank you, and really love hearing your story as well, going from oil and gas to fashion. Super passionate about fashion here, actually. So I'm from New York. My co-founder is actually in the front as well here, Sam. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old, actually 16 years old. Originally started in the nonprofit industry and was focused on putting concerts and events together in the States to raise awareness for causes across the world. Put on a bunch of concerts and left that industry, went into the fintech industry. I know that's huge in Bahrain right now, and absolutely believe fintech is incredibly important for entrepreneurs and such an important focus. I sold my company, which was a payments company, and we powered the back end of Walmart and various gas stations. So we have a sort of a kin history of working in oil and gas. So Shell and ConocoPhillips, we powered their payment system at the point of sale in the States. And after selling that company, for a few years, I was kind of lost. So entrepreneurial journey, you end up doing something that is incredibly amazing and awesome because you get to bring your best friends and people to support you around you. And once you succeed, you say, okay, great, what can I do next? And like most heroes on the hero's journey, you end up getting lost for a little bit. So for a few years, I failed miserably, basically spent most of the money that I made on the sale of the startup, and was able to really travel the world and meet dozens of really fascinating entrepreneurs in various different countries and help them with their businesses. And eventually came up with a new idea that I'm working on now, which is called Gamma. And what we do is we basically figured out that there are hundreds of millions, if not billions, of computers in the world that have idle compute. So basically processing that they're not using. So when these computers are not in use, you actually can use it for things to change, basically help change the world. So AI research, cancer research, or lots of fun right now, cryptocurrency. So particularly mining cryptocurrency and processing cryptocurrency transactions. So what we do is we go after gamers who have the most powerful computer in the world for consumers, and we use their idle compute to currently mine cryptocurrency transactions, and in the future to work on hopefully mapping the genome or potentially even solving cancer.
Thank you so much, very, very inspiring. I think before we go to the next question, I would love to seek like a show of hands of like the audience. Who of the audience here are entrepreneurs or think about starting their own startup soon? Cool, so we have some entrepreneurs in the crowd, and I'm sure they would love to hear some more tips and stories from our panelists here. So moving to Nada, Bahrain. Bahrain is a very special country and very special people, and you have a very special brand as well. So was that a choice by you? Like, I think you studied in the US and you have been around. So starting your business here in Bahrain, what kind of opportunities you found here in Bahrain? Why did you choose Bahrain? I know like most of the artists actually who produce or design your products are actually Bahrainis, right? And based here as well. So I'm sure this is a great opportunity. So we'd love to know more about this.
I'm Bahraini national, so obviously that's my reason number one. Reason number two is, and I've been asked by this yesterday, I had a short interview, why is it ideal for you to set up in Bahrain? There are actually many good reasons to do that. Number one, I'm very proud to say that the talent I have in my company, especially in the design and the communication and admin and logistics, are all Bahraini. So in our company, it's about 50-50 in terms of Bahrainis and non-Bahraini. So talent is a big thing. A lot of the artists are Bahraini. Yes, that's true. And we do have some other artists from the region, and sometimes we have artists even from outside the Middle East because we just can't resist their artwork. It's so beautiful, and really we want to make the world beautiful in our own way. When we started Neda, we started it in 2011. And it was an ideal time. My fellow friend who was on the stage here from Temkeen, there was a point where Temkeen gave 80% funding for marketing, branding activities. So that was fantastic. Because imagine, we were able to build a world-class brand. I don't know if any of you saw our packaging and how we do our... We were able to build that because we had that kind of grants, let's say, from the beginning. It's wonderful. Of course, today, I'm at a different challenge. And I know we're talking about startups, and I think the most important question is, after being a startup, the scaling up. So I know it's, the topic is about starting up, but the question that a lot of people here maybe are not aware of or need to feel or know about is the scaling up point. Because there's something in scaling up called the Valley of Death. I don't want to scare anybody, but I would like that there would be programs to support companies at that phase after starting up when they're scaling up, because it's even harder than starting up a company.
Of course. And definitely we'll cover like this topic, scaling up, during the panel today. But moving to Gabriel, like fintech, you have like a fintech experience. You invested, I think, in entertainment and music as well before. You have like a blockchain startup now. So, and we have heard the news here in Bahrain about the launch of the FinTech Bay, and there's a lot of support from the government in the fintech space and banking innovation in general. So, do you have any ideas about that? How does it look like over there in the US? I think you are building a global startup as well. So, tell us more about this.
Yeah, so absolutely. And following up on the scaling up bit as well, in the States, a lot of the issues with the fintech companies were they were incredibly successful in that startup phase. They raised anywhere between, let's say, $500,000 to even $35 million in seed capital. And they had a basic product market fit, but they weren't able to grow beyond that startup stage because they didn't know how to properly, I would say, fly over the Valley of Death. So if you look at how fintech succeeded in the States, I think it's very different than sort of what's happening, obviously, in Mena. And because you have the ability to look at what worked and what didn't work in the States. So in the States, the issue was that, we had the credit card interchange network, and the banks controlled everything, and that technology was invented in the 50s and 60s. So it's 60-year-old technology invented around the same time that, the first Apollo mission happened. So like you're running on this really old technology where I think the excitement that's happening here is you can leapfrog that by having faster internet, faster mobile, and the ability to see what didn't work and what did work. And I think the most important thing on, let's say, the blockchain bit, if I talk a little bit about blockchain, it's all the rage right now, cryptocurrency and blockchain. spend a little bit of time researching it. But the most important thing is the use case of it, is what is actually, you know, the use of blockchain and why does it exist? And I think for this region primarily, it would be really interesting to understand the educational aspect of it and figuring out, you know, either verification of education credentials and or in the fashion space, which I find is, but again, I'm passionate about it and super fascinated about understanding the need for verifying the particular designer and collaboration and the materials where they're from. And you actually can put them all on the blockchain so they can be digitized so you can know where they're coming from. So that you're not dealing with counterfeits or counterfeit goods.
Fantastic. So moving to Nada, you talked about scaling, but also before we discuss the scaling bit, I would love to know more about what kind of challenges that you face as an entrepreneur, either in Bahrain or generally. I'm sure that you are navigating challenges and problems almost on a daily basis. So would love to know more about this as well.
This seems to be the favorite question of a lot of everybody.
Of
Everybody
course, they're all here to know that, you know, the problems and challenges.
So I'll tell you something. I think people who, you know, are self-employed or entrepreneurs, they have their own reality show. Seriously, like, because I feel like I can create a different episode of my life every day. So there isn't one single challenge, there isn't one single thing. Every day is something different. Today, it's the heat.
Or the jet lag.
Yeah, no, it's nice to sit down there, but here, I think they need to put some of the fans onto us, if someone can hear us here, or, you know. But some days it's people, some days it's cash, some days it's communication, because the speed of information is doubling. Sometimes even choosing how to communicate to people. Today there are so many ways to connect to people on social media. Should we use Snapchat? Should we use Facebook? Should we use Instagram? The amount of information out there is so much. How can we focus? So one of the challenges is focus as well. I think the most important thing when we're entrepreneurs is to have our focus sharpened every day, concentrate on what really matters, pay attention to what's going on around us, the market trends, and most importantly, and I think the key word is customers. Listen to our customers. What are they looking for? What do they want? What's you know what excites them? I think in my company, one of our values is to create an interesting experience to our customers. Even though we're not high tech or you know, we're not in that digital world in sort of technology or that kind of innovation. Our innovation is different. It's an innovation of beauty. It's an innovation of how can we become happier when we wear something nicer? How can we look at people and just feel, you know, their energy and image? And that's, I think, my biggest challenge, is to reinvent myself, is to find how can we do things better and not compare ourselves to other people, but keep challenging ourselves and, you know, beating ourselves, if that's a correct term to use.
In the opening remarks, I think, of the previous panel, they said one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is fundraising and finding the capital to finance their startup. And like, you know, startup without capital is not a startup. It can't operate. So what do you think about this? Like, what would you advise the people here in the room? Should they start looking for capital very early on? Should they look for institutional funding? At what stage? Tell us more about your experience fundraising. I mean, I'm sure you have done it so many times. Since you were 15.
7-time entrepreneur, whatever. So successfully raised and haven't successfully raised. I think, so there's a funny anecdote. A friend this week, she has been emailing both myself and my co-founder about raising money, just working on her startup. And she goes, what comes first? The idea, the meeting with the investors, the deck, the team, whatever. Look, I think the most important thing when you're raising money is obviously your team, and this is what the last panel said. People invest in people, they don't invest in ideas, unless the idea is like really amazing or really horrible. But even if it's really horrible and the team's amazing, they're going to probably invest in you. That's primarily in Silicon Valley. Now, for us, and for me, my journey, I've raised money from friends and family. So like from my mom, don't do that. I lost her money, not great. She forgave me. That was when I was 19. I've also raised from friends and family, which is okay. I really like going after professional investors. Why? And professional angels. So it's because they know that they're investing in you, and most likely they're going to lose their money. And that's okay, because they're doing dozens investments, or 20 or 50 or 100 investments, but you want to find the right strategic angels that can invest in you. So for us, we raised 2.1 million in our seed round. At that time, we had no product. We had a great team. All of us were experienced. Not, one of us was not. So let's say you've got a fantastic team. We had a beautiful deck that was our pitch deck. 12 to 15 slides that covered all aspects of the business. And then we went in and started pitching. And we strategically went after the right investors because we had that sort of that experience before. Now, the other option is, what a lot of friends do, is they go to accelerators or incubators. I think that's a fantastic approach as well, because you're put into a network that is already compounded by all the other startups that are involved. So for us, it took a month and a half to raise 2.1 million because of the excitement of the idea, the industry, and the team. And right now we're raising $30 million on our token sale, and we closed about 10 million of it. So it's a fascinating time to raise and to do startups. And my suggestion would be, is don't be afraid. The worst thing that can happen is you fail. And again, failure sucks, but again, it builds character. And having failure happen to you is a part of that hero's journey that I talk about, and heroine's journey as well. So I think it's very much ingrained in sort of the entrepreneurial spirit. I think we can all agree here on that.
Of course. I think our time, I think, is almost up. But before we end our panel, would love to open the floor as well. If anybody in the audience have a question. Okay, any questions?
Let's get one question.
One question. So can we have a mic? First row.
Price is right. Come on down. We've got the question.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Morning.
Which one comes first? Innovation in making new ideas, or entrepreneurship in sponsoring ideas?
Good question. Why don't you take the question first?
You're giving me...
So actually, yeah, I would love to know this as well. Like, did you decide to start your brand, or like you thought like, no, I would love to be an entrepreneur, and then you came up with the idea?
Okay, so there's this thing about the word entrepreneur, okay? So it's not, honestly, it's not important, okay? It's not important. What's important is when you have an idea and you feel inside your heart that if you don't do it, the world is going to collapse. I think the word entrepreneurship is honestly, I know is overrated. If someone comes and tells you I'm an entrepreneur,
run.
Because the thing is, it's not like you strive to be an entrepreneur. Your intention is to grow an idea, create something, communicate a certain way of living. One of my friends said, she talks about me and she says, when you speak to Neda, she makes you feel like, how did you live without a Neda before this? And of course, I enjoy that thought, but it's like you become like a messenger in delivering the message and the idea that you help create. So innovation is something that can be nurtured, it can grow, and it can, your pace of it can become better as you continue your business. And it's all about doing. The faster you do it and know how to do it and not do it, I think is the key to innovation. Because if you keep just thinking, it's just going to sit there. And what, in the beginning when I started at NEDA, I don't know how many, there were at least 3 or 4 women who came to me and said, we had the same idea like you.
Always. We have the same idea.
And honestly, it's, if you can't do it, don't even have the audacity to come and say it to my face. Because what I do might look very glamorous, yes? However, I saw in someone's social media that don't glorify entrepreneurship, because it's like eating glass, and I forgot the rest of the quote.
So it's like eating glass and it's jumping off a cliff without a parachute.
Yes.
And figuring out how to assemble it on the way down.
So it's not about that. It's about going strongly after an idea and making the world believe it.
Thank you. Gabriel, would you like to add anything regarding that?
Sure. I think that was spot on. And I guess, so in the order is, and I have the same thing when somebody says I'm an entrepreneur or whatever, you meet them on the subway or in a plane and you're like, okay, whatever, man. It's basically founder is my favorite. I like to use founder instead of entrepreneur, because then you're like, okay, what did you found? But basically, I think what it comes down to is it's foundership, entrepreneurship, then innovation. Innovation happens based on the team that you bring together. For us, our idea, we had a dinner party, actually. It was 6 friends, and we threw ideas in a salad bowl. We pulled them out. All the ideas were horrible. After pitching back and forth, we came up with the first idea, and that first idea that we pitched after those horrible ideas was the idea that stuck. And we just moved as fast as we can. That was July 3rd. We had our first investor August 11th. And then we closed the round basically a month and a half later after that. So we moved as fast as humanly possible to build what we were doing, because we knew if we didn't, we'd either get bored, we'd lose momentum, or get depressed. Basically, that's what happens in the cycle of entrepreneurship. So you have to move fast, and you have to kill things quickly if they're not working. And that's context-based. You don't have to always listen to that advice. And I guess the biggest piece of advice I could say up here is you have to live your own experiences. You can listen to our stories. They're inspiring. They're amazing. We're here to help. Email me, and my email is gs@gammanow.com. You can find me afterwards. Happy to answer any questions. But it's your story. You're going to have to make it your own. And the biggest thing that you can do is to try to make a mark in your life and in others through things that you find passionate about. So hope we were helpful today.
Thank you, Gabriel. Yeah, we have a question here, so if you can pass the mic, please.
And there's another one.
It's overtime here.
Sorry, we'll take that one first, because it was closer to the mic. Sorry.
I don't know whether you've answered this or not, because I came a bit late. But what is the best way to protect the intellectual property of your idea once you start punting it out to potential investors?
So what did you do to protect the intellectual property of your idea?
Once you start punting it out to potential investors, there's a risk, once you start exposing it, that somebody might kind of copy it or...
So that's a good question. Look, if they're going to copy your idea, it wasn't really that good of an idea to start with. And if you're afraid of somebody copying it, I would say don't be too afraid. So for us, we have no intellectual property with our current idea. We have patents on our blockchain side, but honestly, it's moving fast. And anybody can copy the idea, but they're not going to have the soul of the founders in it. So like you can see, I'm passionate up here talking about the idea and getting into it. That's what the investors buy into. And the intellectual property side is important for trademarks, patents, all of that, which is important on the scaling side of the business. But honestly, most startups today, dime a dozen, and those ideas are not patentable or protected.
Thank you.
Is that a decent answer?
It was a very decent
answer. Yeah. It's a great question, by the way, because we get asked that all day long in our investor pitches, because they like to ask you, what's your moat?
And nobody can really copy you. Nobody can take you and put them in that company. That's, I think, the secret.
Just the idea, exactly. Yeah.
So I have a question here.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Ahmed Al-Magabi, and I started a company to disrupt the audit industry. Question to Gabriel. Could you talk a little bit about your experience in blockchain, and what are some of the uses based on your experience? And maybe a little bit more on AI, machine learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the blockchain side, for us, what we're doing is we're using idle processing on gaming rigs to mine cryptocurrency, as well as we're building on top of existing chains. The problem with blockchain, and this is super high level, the problem with blockchain is that blockchain trades speed for security. So they're super secure, but they're super slow. So if I wanted to buy a beautiful scarf over here on Ethereum right now, it would take upwards of 10 to 20 minutes to buy that. I wouldn't have purchased that transaction. I would have paid it in cash or swiped my credit card. So I think the biggest innovation that's going to happen in blockchain this year is figuring out how to speed up the transaction flow off-chain. So that's what we're developing and building, along with a bunch of other great companies and projects. So Plasma, Casper are working on that. So as soon as blockchain and chains can figure out off-chain solutions of speeding up transactions and processing, then they'll be able to actually build apps on top of different chains. And then AI, the AI side I can answer afterwards.
Yeah, sure. If you have any questions, I'm sure our panelists will be around. If you have any more questions, I think we ran out of time, right? Can we have
out of time, but
International Women's Day, so we have to take a cut.
You'll have to hang around to take questions from the audience at the side of the stage, I think. But thank you so much, guys.
One woman, because it's like the International Women's Day, so we have to do that. Sorry.
Sorry, who was it? Oh,
hi, so I want to know, when did you know that it's the right time to start getting funded?
Sorry?
The right time to start getting funded.
Okay, the right time to start getting funded.
I was self-funded. So sometimes, okay, I'm going to say this thing because a lot of people talked about funding. Start small, low risk, and grow organically. Sometimes that's also good for you. You can learn your lessons at a cheaper price. So, I was brief, right?
Yeah,
that was great.
Thank you. So thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks so much to the panelists and their great input and advice to all our entrepreneurs in the room. And I'm sure they will be sticking around as well if you have more questions for them. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. We'll be watching this space for your new products, and I'm sure there will be a lot more to say about blockchain in the future too. Thanks, guys. Next up, we are continuing our In an Elevator With series. Ali from Social Media Club has been interviewing startups on their way to success. So please welcome to the stage Ali and Startup Dre.
You.
Okay. Test. An hour.
Okay, good. A good test. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساء الخير جميعا. Good afternoon, everyone. We are back with the interviews with the entrepreneurs. Yesterday we had Bahraini entrepreneurs, and today we will have European entrepreneurs. Okay, so with me is Miss Eder Ulrich.
Ulrika.
Ulrika. Okay, good. And we would like to know more about her project, her entrepreneurship story, and what is her advices to the entrepreneurs. So can you tell us more about your project, which is called DRI?
Yeah, sure. Hi. I'm Ulrika. I'm co-founder and chief commercial officer of DRI. And what we really do is we help organizations on their journey to the cloud. So we come from a background of government, financial services, and professional services, so consulting, and really work with businesses across Europe and also here in Bahrain and the GCC to help them understand, does the cloud make sense for you as a business? And when I say cloud, I mean Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. Does it make sense for you to make that step away from your servers and data centers to the cloud? If so, if the answer is yes to that, we help you do that work, do the migration, and you might have heard a lot of businesses actually in Bahrain are migrating to the cloud as we speak. And then we have also built a product that helps you scale on the cloud securely. So really we're here to help businesses scale and embrace that new technology that has been introduced to the region quite a while ago.
Nice. So how did you get the idea of DRI, to be DRI, like, you know, working in this digital field?
Yeah, good question. So we started the business 2 years ago in the UK. We have an office here in Bahrain since 2017 in the CIF area. And the idea for DRI really came from us working with the UK government, where in 2013, they had to commit multi-millions of dollars of savings. And the way that they wanted to do that was by digitalizing their services. So everything the UK government used to do was really very manual and paper-based. And they thought that they can really save that money and make these savings whilst being very progressive from a technology perspective by building a cloud platform where they can run their entire processes through. So my co-founders, and one of them is here, Jeremy, and some of the other senior team members have led that effort and that delivery project, and we have built a secure cloud platform for the UK government. And as we have successfully wrapped that up, working for different companies, we said, why don't we duplicate that effort and help other governments and other private organizations that really want to use the cloud, but A, don't really know how to best do that, or B, would like to use it, but don't know how to use that in a secure way.
Good. So I'll go to the third question now, because you're moving to other governments. Is that why you moved to Bahrain, or you opened a Bahraini branch?
Yeah, it's a good connection you made there. So last year, or early last year, we met somebody from the team at C5. They're running a cloud accelerator here in the region, in London. And they were saying, hey, we're running this accelerator in Bahrain, and you should really research the region a bit, because we think that your skill set would be really, really helpful in the region. And what we have found out is that in Bahrain, and I don't know if you heard, but the government last year announced that they will move all of their ministries to AWS. AWS has announced that they will build a data center by the end of this year here in the region. And as we did research, not only do we bring the government experience and the cloud experience, but also the region, Bahrain, really has this amazing aspiration of becoming the technology hub of the Middle East, you know, competing with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, and really has made that investment, not just from a monetary perspective, but also from resources and, you know, organizations like the EDB, like Startup Bahrain, other organizations really working together and bringing that momentum to the region where jobs will be created, where Bahrain will really be the spotlight from a technology perspective here in the GCC.
Yeah. You talked about the cloud servicing, you talked about the AWS, and you provide a DRI cloud servicing, right? For the government. So why cloud servicing? Is it a game changer for the region?
Yeah, I think it's an absolute game changer for the region. And not only, I think, it fosters really economic diversification. So I've attended a couple of conferences this year, and everybody really talks about how Bahrain is looking at diversifying away from oil and gas into other industries. And the nice thing about cloud and technology overall is that it's not just oil and gas, or it's not just transport or financial services. It really is a wrapper across all industries. So I think it really will enable businesses to reinvent themselves. I mean, if you look at financial services in Europe or the US, it's completely different business models. You have, organizations like Revolut or Monzo that are, where there's no branch of a bank anymore that you can walk into. It's all really online-based, cloud-based business models. And that same phenomenon and movement will be able to happen here, or Uber, Netflix, cloud-based models that really help to reinvent the business.
Okay, you told me earlier that you've been doing this for 10 years in Europe, and then you just recently came to Bahrain.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between doing business in Bahrain, in Middle East, and doing it in Europe?
So I have to work on a Sunday, so but no, I think the biggest difference for us has been that in Europe or the US, technologies get introduced on a daily basis and adoption happens on a daily basis. Here, I think bigger technologies like the cloud get introduced on a more kind of coherent level. The government, businesses, industry organizations are working together to make sure the cloud movement will be introduced successfully here. And I think the nice thing of kind of doing that at a faster pace in the next few years will be that businesses will be allowed to kind of experiment and fail, or experiment and be successful, but you're not going to be so dependent on that one move that you make as a business to try and do something innovative, because there's going to be other opportunities. And I think this is a great first step in that direction. I think, again, there's a lot of business and the government really taking that leap of faith, really, introducing that and putting all of their powers behind. And I think we're going to see a lot of what we see in the US and Europe here very, very shortly.
Nice. So you talked about DRI and how people can get involved with DRI, can work with DRI. I know you have a stand inside our exhibition so people can visit you, but can you tell them how they can get involved with your services?
Yeah, sure. So we have offices in London, in the UK, and here in Bahrain, in SIF, in Fakhr Tower. Our CTO sits in the UAE, so we're covering the GCC from that perspective. Our team is going to be here all day. Otherwise, visit our website. We're www.drie.co and get in touch. But again, we're very happy to chat, or social media, any of the usual channels you can reach us.
Thank you, Ulrika.
Right,
thank you, everyone. Ulrika will be there at her stand. You can visit her and enjoy the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulrika, and we'll see you again a little bit later, Ali. Next up, with a panel around reaching the GCC connected consumer, we have some real heavy hitters from the tech world, with a panel chaired by Amal of Human Capital Advisory. Please welcome them to the stage. Thank you very much.
Your moderator is not sitting in the middle. No, I have to be different. Welcome, my dear speakers. Yes. Pass on the mics. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's nearly 12 o'clock, midday. You're all hungry, tired, hot, as in warm, feeling warm. And you've got fans, we don't. But I think we will enjoy this coming panel because we have wonderful speakers with us today. And it's a topic that I think everybody is wondering, how are we going to keep pace with change? And I think the gist of what's going to come out from our speakers is how these companies and how the different stakeholders are actually keeping pace with this change and what the future plans are for our Arab nation. I think the explosive growth that we have in internet usage in the region, what we're witnessing at the moment, the wave of tech-hungry millennials, and I think it's not only the millennials, which are half of the workforce or more today, but it's also the Generation Z that are going to devour us soon with their differently constructed minds, and the gush that is coming with all these smart devices in the MENA region at large. I think this, we're witnessing a digital transformation that's taking consumers' lifestyle to a totally different level. It's taking us by storm. So what do we do about this? How do we handle an Arab digital generation? Just a few statistics before I welcome and introduce my esteemed speakers. A reminder, a refresher, you probably have been hearing this since yesterday, but maybe not. So 83% of our Arab nation use internet every single day. And 40% use the internet at least 5 hours a day. 61% spend more than 2 hours per day only on social networking platforms. And 78% prefer internet on TV. So these are all changes that mean a lot to every single company and government, and maybe even educational institution, and even parents these days. So, but more than that, 48% of those people are not satisfied with quality. With the quality of the websites, with the quality of local versions of the information being provided, of international websites. And that means there's so much opportunity for growth. There's so much opportunity and so many gaps. So citizens themselves and not governments are the driving force now. The citizens themselves are leading this digitalization. And we are 500 million Arabs, but in the GCC alone, we're only 50 million. And yet, I think for our nations, the opportunity is so big. It has been estimated that it will generate all of these opportunities for businesses is going to generate $90 billion per year into our GDP. So I think I won't go on. Maybe in the middle I will. But I will introduce our speakers who will probably shed more light on how we can utilize and exploit these opportunities, and how are we doing in the Arab world in localizing our content and creating more contextual forms of digitalization for our consumers, and how our consumers think. I have Jeb here. Jeb is a Vice President and Chief Technology Officer. I didn't bring my glasses, I'm too old, but I'll try. Okay, in American Express Middle East. His job is responsible for defining and driving the long-term technology vision and ensuring the development and implementation of robust, innovative, and secure IT architecture, operations, and infrastructure across all business units and markets in Amex. He Jeb, of course, embarked his career in IT, which to date spans over 20 years. And he's worked in other sectors, including Merrill Lynch, IBM, HP, and the list goes on.
It doesn't look like it, though, does it? Doesn't look like 20 years.
Doesn't look like 20 years. Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. I've been working for more. Okay. We've got Ahmed Sami from Oracle, based in Dubai. Ahmed is senior member of Oracle Middle East. He's in the leadership team with over 17 years of experience across applications, technology, cloud, and enterprise mobility. Currently, Ahmed is heading Oracle NetSuite Global Business Unit for the GCC. And Ahmed is passionate about helping SMBs in the GCC grow by utilizing the best-in-class cloud solutions. And Bahrain is heavy on cloud these days, as the previous speaker talked about, and I think we'll hear a lot from you. We've got Rana. Rahat is a senior account director at Salesforce from the UK. But Rahat has just left Bahrain, so he was here for 10 years. Rahat has over 20 years experience in information technology and transformation engagements, working for companies such as Cisco, KPMG, SAP, HP, and the list goes on, until he reached Salesforce. He lived for 10 years in Bahrain. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
And he's responsible for major accounts in the GCC and working with brands across the Middle East to help them improve their go-to-market strategies, execution and raising revenues, and after-sales services. Last but not least is Nadim. Nadim, welcome to Bahrain. Nadim Khammar from CNN. Nadim is the regional digital director at CNN International Commercial, responsible for working with brands and organizations across the Middle East on data-led creative advertising solutions. Tough job.
Very tough. Very, very tough.
Nadim develops digital strategies around branded and sponsored content. So using the latest data targeting and optimization techniques in the process. He's got 10 years experience in the advertising industry and has held a range of roles on both client and agency side. So welcome, our esteemed speakers. We are now going to probably open the floor to some questions and discussions on our suggested topics. I think we'll start with the first topic of demand, growing demand for change in services nowadays and how they are offered. How do companies feel that the speed of this change has been in the region as opposed to the rest of the world? I think we always compare ourselves with Europe and America and all of the Western world and the Far East in terms of adoption of change and developing our solutions. Have we been slower in the Arab world? Have we been at the same speed? And what have these developments been? I think digitalization affects our existence at large. It affects the consumer from a social perspective, political, civic, everything. It touches our lives at large. But I will pose this question to probably Ahmed Sami and Rahat, and then any speaker can add their comments. So how do you feel we are?
So I think, broadly speaking, we have seen a revolution in the sort of landscape, both from a technological perspective, but then also in terms of a usage perspective as well. So what that means is that the number of internet users, both globally and regionally, has driven exponentially. Just 3 years ago, it was around 46%. It's now into double-digit growth. It's around 67% in terms of usage, which is going to drive innovation, drive growth, drive revenue, and businesses. And we're seeing this also here in Bahrain currently this week, but I think also over the last year as well, that startups are starting to drive economic change. We saw a few years ago with the Arab Spring that social media took a major step in bringing civic responsibility, civic society into a different format, but now that will drive also economic change. And commerce is, I think, one of the key drivers of change, both from a government perspective, but then also at a consumer level as well.
Ahmed?
Yeah, I agree with Rahat, and I think also one of the things that really impact the adoption of the solutions is how the market also is reacting to it. It depends, of course, on the type of the solution, but if you look at the enterprise market, and then with any new solution, like the cloud wave when it came, how the market is reacting to it, how the IT department within companies evaluate it, how the partners or the ecosystem around it adopt it and implement it and support it and so on. So it's not only the availability of the solution, but how also we can execute this solution and implement it on the ground, I think is a very core element of how we can get the change and move forward with it.
Any other comments? Yes?
Yeah, look, I think the American Express philosophy here is always been to ensure that we can serve our customers in their channel of choice. And those classic drivers of great customer service persist no matter what the channel is. Right? Make it fast, make it simple, make it relevant, and make it all about the customer. What our global data shows us is that millennials are twice as likely as us from the older generations to prefer digital self-service capabilities. So we've been investing in ensuring that those capabilities are made available to them. And having done so, then the subsequent local and regional data actually supports it almost like for like. So our millennials do actually, or are twice as likely as baby boomers to consume digital services, with thus Gen X guys somewhere sort of in the middle. And also, they're twice as likely to want to engage with us through the mobile app. And as Mazen Khoury, our CEO, said yesterday, actually this has a fundamental implication for us consumer-facing brands, because those that call reach out to us 3 times a year on average. Those that connect digitally to us, especially through an app, connect 32 times a year. So it gives you obviously a different opportunity with regards to how you reach out to them.
Yes, and I think just as a follow-up question or comment, I think the adoption rate, according to research of governments, digitalizing and moving forward has been so slow, the governments themselves. So I think it poses maybe some, because what is digitalization at the end of the day? It's a lot of things, and it's very important for us to define it. From a respect of infrastructure, policies, content, and products and services. So if one piece of the puzzle is missing, then it poses a lot of probably challenges on businesses on how they can quickly also react to their consumers' changing demands. Do you find that a challenge in the GCC, the adoption rate of let's not call it adoption rate, but how ready we are as governments and as countries in the Gulf region and the Arab region to help businesses boost their abilities in order to serve the customer? Or is it not a barrier at all? Anybody can answer this question.
In my view, with the changes that are happening, I have seen this myself across the years, is the rate of adoption and the appetite is much faster than it used to be. I will take the same example with regards to the cloud. When the first time cloud was introduced, there was like, no, cloud is not an option.
Yes.
So it was like, no, this is something we cannot
regarding a lot of things, regarding the data, regarding the security, regarding the governance behind it, etc. And at a point of time where we were having a business discussion, and it reached a point where really it's either the people are responsible for this. It's either they will adapt to it or they will be replaced.
Yes.
Because the wave, it became, and the change became too heavy to resist. So it's a matter of how we can embrace this and move forward with it. And I think there is a big improvement happening here, especially with being in the GCC. You have a lot of talent around it. It becomes a talent attracting market, where so there is a lot of projects. There is a lot of people that want to start building new projects around this.
Okay.
Sorry, as dangerous as this sounds, I thoroughly agree with what Ahmed is saying, particularly because innovation is also driving the growth. What we've seen, both from a cloud computing perspective and then also in terms of personalization of services, is that people will be drawn towards a brand and become loyal towards that brand if they personalize content, personalize a message towards them. So as business people, we're always looking to obviously drive our revenue, but the way that we're going to do that is to actually provide a message that resonates with people, that actually drives them towards our brand, and then also to ensure that not only do we keep them loyal to our brand, but that we keep them motivated and give recommendations to their peers too. There's a statistic I think that came out just last year by Euromonitor that individuals or consumers are 63% more likely to buy or purchase from a new vendor than they would if they got a celebrity endorsement. So that means that even as individuals, we make a difference.
Yes,
exactly.
Indeed. 51% of millennials say that they run their lives from their phones. So I think technology drives a lot of these, shifts, and e-commerce, yes, is a big untapped, I think, giant in the Middle East. And the way I think a lot of research indicates that even spending patterns of connected customers in the Middle East is quite different at these age groups than the world. I think we spend more, and therefore I think there's a lot of potential there. Talking about, maybe Nadeem and Rahat can start off with this. I think communication platforms are evolving all the time. And how has this taken place in the region, specifically in the Arab region? And let's compare maybe the GCC, the Arab world, and the international front. We have changing habits, devices, social media. It's different in this culture. So yes.
So it is different. It is what we're seeing at CNN compared to the region is we'll look at it on 3 levels. We'll look at mobile, video, and social. On mobile, well, at least smartphone penetrations are over 90% in the GCC, and that's probably relevant to the telecoms making the cost of ownership so much lower. More than that, on smartphone penetration, we're looking at broadband rates. So 3 of the top 5 broadband penetration markets are in the GCC. So we've equipped the audiences with the latest technology and the fastest speeds. And if we look at mobile in terms of consumption from CNN, CNN International in the GCC has about a 65% desktop access point, so 65 to 35% of the English site, while CNN Arabic is actually flipped. More than 75% of users accessing CNN Arabic is on mobile. So that's, I think, the direct reflection of the market situation, the consumption habits. They're going mobile first. As Jeb likes to call them, digital millennial digital natives are still that. Another fact as well is on social. So we all know that, as mentioned, social, about 80% of the audiences are on social every day in the GCC. What we're seeing is that users are obviously looking to consume CNN content off-platform more. We're getting over half of our video views off-platform, through news aggregators, through social platforms. So there is a big consumption change in the market. Audiences want their news wherever and whenever it is, and not particularly on the actual website. So we've had to adapt with the moving GCC consumer. Another important fact you mentioned is that they're spending about 5 hours a day online. And that's pretty scary, for people coming online for the first time and consuming content. And as publishers and our commercial partners, we need to actually take responsibility in providing relevant, strong content that could resonate with the audiences and make a change, rather than simply peer-to-peer engagement.
Indeed, indeed. Anyone has, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to make it's it's something that you can carry around in your pocket, and yeah, it's
and it
it's always
rules
there.
you, and you want to live through it.
I think we do.
And buy it, yes, indeed.
That comes back, see, you're calling mobile phones technology still, right?
I know, I made that mistake.
Yeah. So we were talking about this earlier, that there are digital natives and digital immigrants, and you've got 5 digital immigrants up here talking about digital natives. It's not very fair. So I was joking the other day that, I tell my daughter in the car to wind down the window. Actually, it's gibberish to her, right? I look like a bit of a dinosaur. Wind down what? So as
She's never seen that.
No. Or when I tell her that side A on an old album is better than side B, she's got no idea what I'm referring to. So we have a language problem as digital immigrants.
Indeed.
But also, I think more importantly, as an immigrant. If I can call myself an immigrant, if everything goes to plan, then it's fine. But when something unexpected happens, and it can become quite overwhelming and quite quickly. So whilst the new platforms are important, what our research shows us, especially around the GCC, is actually people do still like to have that human-to-human interaction, especially around more complex, queries such as financial services. And that trust is still the most fundamental thing. Our research has also shown that the millennials are the first generation who are more likely to talk about positive customer experiences online than negative customer experiences. And so word of mouth, especially via these new communication platforms, is becoming a real driver of brand reputation. It's something that we have to be aware of. I sort of, as an old man, still sort of think of millennials as young people, right? And the joke used to be that they're Generation Y, because Y was the only thing they used to say. Well, why? Whereas actually now, right, there's 150 million of them across the region. Yes. They are the dominant consumer force. They are increasingly influential, and so we need to make sure that we can cater to their needs.
Indeed. I think we'll move on to a more kind of different angle, actually, of this conversation. I think we're in Bahrain, and Bahrain has currently taken decisions, and it's the strive towards being at the forefront of GCC technological advancements, the AWS, the CBB sandbox issuance, the fintech solutions that are being advocated, the newly set accelerators in the country and all the funding that's going towards that. What does this mean to companies and the whole ecosystem and the innovation scene at large? I think I'll ask a local presence here, American Express in Bahrain. What does it mean to you? I mean, this whole, what does the scene look like for digitalization and for the connected customer? And I'm sure it's positive, but how are we going to get there? And how are companies like you contributing to this whole ecosystem?
Wow.
I know the hackathon is one of the things. It's fantastic, yes. By the way. It's great, and it's really a good seed to start with. We need to have more of those. Thank you very much, MX. And yes.
So American Express has been here in Bahrain for over 40 years. And we were a part of that first wave of transformation when Bahrain was an early mover in terms of diversifying their economy. And innovation was a key cornerstone of that transformation. And I think it's still fundamental for both Bahrain and indeed for American Express Middle East. So in terms of our own internal culture, we have an Aiming Higher, Let's Innovate program at American Express, which gives our staff a voice in terms of sharing their ideas and their innovations, which we can then execute. And that's helping to drive an important cultural shift within the organization. We also work with established technology partners, some of whom are here: Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, Cisco, Salesforce, right?
Thank you.
And we've built, an agile, robust IT infrastructure which helps us to customize our solutions to the needs of our customers. And that's the key bit here. So we have to put the customer at the heart of this transformation and this innovation. It's never technology for technology's sake. It actually has to add some value. And as you said, now we're entering this new era of partnerships where incumbents such as ourselves will start to work with new players in order to deliver new innovative solutions, right? And we are proud to be a founding member of FinTech Bay, which was recently set up to help promote Bahrain as a regional hub of innovation and FinTech. And we think that this is a milestone achievement and a great expression of this new era of partnerships that we believe that we're going to enter. So I think that if you take the changes that are taking place at the moment, on one hand, you have FinTech Bay, you have the regulatory changes such as the sandbox, you have Amazon Web Services being established here, you've got financial services such as ourselves all taking a key role and a keen interest in it, and it's all coming together to create an environment where startups have got the best possible chance of success.
Indeed. Exciting times, exciting days, I think, for Bahrain and for the region at large. Ahmed, you reside in Dubai. Can you explain, maybe shed some light on what's happening there? And
one thing, if you allow me, I would like to
Sure.
To comment is the whole thing that is happening now with the if we agree to call it the digital disruption, and be it in the financial industry, be it in the media industry, be it in the enterprise solution business, and so on, where the availability of the solution or the content that this content used to be only available for the head of the market, as compared to the ability now to go and talk to the tail of the market, where you have a lot of consumers are out there. I take the availability of from a traditional market, that you move to the digital marketing campaigns, where any small business can have a marketing campaign with a very small amount of money, and so on. Also in our enterprise solution, with the solution that we are providing currently, I take one example that we are working with now, and it's a very small company that they are working in the flower business. At the beginning, initially it looks like a very small business, very simple business, but if you look at the need for such a business, for a solution, if you look at the supply chain that they have, those guys, they import flowers from different parts of the world, and then they have contracts with some 5-star hotels and so on. So the ability to get this product and to store it and to handle the logistics and the supply chain around it, and to even calculate the cost of this product and what are the margins and they need to put on in order to continue as a profitable business. All those requirements are not small requirements. Those are the same exact requirements, the same exact business pains as any size of any business. And this is one of the things that are happening with the disruption, where you are really be able to reach to a market segment or a consumer type that you haven't been talking to before.
Okay. I'll move on to localization to the GCC connected customer, or the Arabic connected customer. I think we've got good examples. I was reading through some statistics, and I think some of our local success stories, or Arab, local as an Arab, success stories, Anghami, Souk.com, Kareem, Bait, I think have surpassed some of the global players, and so they're used more in the Arab world. And these are and there's many more, so that we've got a lot of success stories of Arabic localized, and not necessarily language, but to the consumer himself, and they're really doing extremely well. So I think localization strategies of global firms, in my view, have been yielding very interesting results. And I think how these global conglomerates are coming to the region and trying to and the low and smaller startups competing with them, very exciting platform, I must say. So I think to all the panelists, really, but research and speed of change is at the heart of this, knowing the consumer, knowing how they think and knowing what they want. So, and it's like we can't catch up. So how do we find out all of these things? How do we localize? So really, I think, what do you do? What do you do to localize? Let's start with Nadeem at CNN.
First of all, I think we got a nice breeze going on right now. It's nice, much better. I think the fan kicked in. Yeah. I think there are a lot of great success stories in localization, and you touched on some of them, whether it's Bait back in the day, whether it's Kareem now. They've done a great job of managing the region's requirements, understanding the consumers, and working on a more micro level than what you're seeing from the bigger ones. In terms of us, in terms of CNN at least, we have our CNN Arabic platform, and the solutions we're providing most of our clients from a content solutions are localized, are personalized for local market requirements. So coming down to what they're working with, which we worked with Oracle in the past before as well, we come up with content solutions that will resonate with the local audience. We don't try to see ourselves as an international player in the market, and I think that's where we differentiate ourselves. We're an independent Arabic platform that provides what the market's looking for.
Any other differences?
I was just going to follow up on what Nadeem said, which actually does resonate with me, but we also have to take into account that the Arab or GCC market is nuanced. It is sophisticated. What works in the, let's say, Western world may not apply here. And I think what we need to make sure is, and I'm saying this as, let's say, an honorary Bahraini, is that what we can, it's true. I lived here for 10 years, right? So I have a, I do have a, an indelible bond here. What I would say is that both here and across the GCC, consumers can drive brands to change their way of marketing to them. There are two major brands that I'm aware of who failed to capture the market share here in the GCC because their Arabic language support was poor to bad. They also didn't provide much local coverage either. It was very much a Western or large market-led consumer marketing. So, yes, be more, dig deeper into your research, do a little bit more in terms of seeing how that brand actually can, make you more loyal towards them, what promotions they can, personalize towards you, what services that they can provide, and then, take it from there and complain. If you don't like what you're seeing and what you're getting, let brands know. Because that's how change will really take effect.
It's quoted that 74% of people will switch brands. So we have demanding customers, and I guess we have
and not return. So we have to also take that into account as well.
74% are willing to switch.
From our perspective, from my perspective, there are two things here. The first one is localization. And American Express Middle East is a regional firm. We do recruit locally in all of the markets in which we operate. At our headquarters here in Bahrain, 66% of our staff are Bahraini. And we try and bring people on board who understand how to connect with people. So there is a localization element, but for me, it's about personalization. So we talk about connected consumer. I'm a connected consumer, even though I'm not a millennial. I want the advantages of digital, rich selection, deep information, consumer reviews, and I want the advantages of physical. Right? I want to be able to touch products, talk to staff, and have a shared experience of shopping. And what I'm after as a connected consumer is for it to just be a little bit easier and a little bit more personal and relevant. I'm seeking personalization. But I don't want it to go to the point where I feel like someone is watching me. And I think that this balance is going to be critical moving forward. How do we, as consumer-facing brands, keep it secure, keep it relevant, keep it personal, without overstepping that line?
Spot on, Jeb, because I think these are the challenges that will be faced more and more with more personalization, like you said, because I think companies will seek personalization as their unique selling proposition, yet how do we ensure confidentiality, security, and all of those frameworks?
We operate quite a unique business model that we refer to as closed loop. So that does give us the ability to understand the where, the what, and the when of our card members' spend. So we are able to tailor the experiences directly for our card members. But as you rightly say, we need to ensure we keep it secure, and we need to ensure that we don't overstep the line.
Indeed. Any other comments by the panelists before we open the floor for questions and answers?
No, I mean, from my end, we need to be very vigilant. I mean, change comes really fast, and I think the first ones who feel are publishers. You can see what's happened the last few years in terms of consumption, from desktop to mobile, from articles to videos. People don't even want to consume within if you have 3 seconds. So, like you're mentioning, personalization and localization are key. We need to be very vigilant about the change coming around.
I think if we put this, and I totally agree with the team here, if you put this in the context of the GCC, so localization for the GCC is just beyond the language. So if you look at ourselves or at the audience there, especially in the CC, you have a multinational, multi-culture, multi-background. So it is really beyond the language. We have now, when you talk personalization, as if I build on what Jeb just mentioned, you really need to globalize this. You need to also take into consideration the local requirements, the local culture, as opposed to just how it used to be. The first thing that comes in mind when you bring localization is language. It's not that. It's not anymore. It's we have our own local requirements,
culture,
our own culture. We have. If you look at the verticals, for example, if you look at the HR requirements, different from every country to the other, and so on and so forth.
Indeed, indeed. I can open the floor for questions and answers now, and a little bit more interaction, and then we can conclude so that you can go. Don't know if it's lunch break or not now.
Just
not
a
yet.
short session before lunch, a quick 10-minute session.
Okay, so any questions? Comments? Additional comments, views? Yes, Futuh.
Yes, very interesting panel. Thank you so much. I come from a background of financial services regulatory. So when you talk about cloud, when you talk about Amazon Web Service, what comes to mind is how well are the regulators aware? Because from my experience, you might spend time educating the consumer, the client, but you forget about the other stakeholder, which is the regulator. Now, maybe as, let's say, a company, I really want to go for cloud, but I have to convince my regulator that it meets with all the rules and regulations, whether it's privacy, whether it is confidentiality, etc. So really, just as a comment and an advice, I think any of these major projects, which I love to see in Bahrain, they should really simultaneously engage with the regulator, especially financial services, plus the client, and not focus on just client and wait for the regulator to catch up. So it's just a comment. Thank you so much.
Anybody has an additional view to Futuh's view?
No, I agree precisely with what you've said. I think we do need to look in both directions, and I don't think that we should sit back and wait for the regulators. I think we all need to help to drive this transformation and this change together. Yeah.
From my point of view, I think there's a lot of government will now, and I think it's not up to them anymore as a government, and not up to anybody anymore. We have to change, we have to develop, we have to evolve, or else we'll just get stuck and die. So,
Amal, if I could just resonate or agree with you, I think if you stand still in today's marketplace or in today's world, you're actually moving behind. Yes. So regulators, governments, they have to keep up with
and
this
pace
of change. Yeah.
Yes.
They have to, but I'm just saying the conversation should be had with both simultaneously.
Yes.
Because I know regulators always play catch up. I worked with them. It's always they are forced by the market to adapt the regulations.
Absolutely.
I think you should educate the regulators, because regulators will create the demand, and they will force the clients and their companies to use the technology if they believe in its relevance and importance to the company. So this is just the angle I'm coming from.
Thank you.
I think I can Sorry, we'll get your question. So this relates back to a point that we discussed, is that you really, with the current changes that are happening, you cannot really look at this from one angle or the other. So while I totally agree with you, I would even like to add to that. So one of the things that you need to manage are the whole ecosystem around this change. Whether you want to educate, you really need to educate the market, you need to educate the partners that will help in executing this. A very relative point is what's happening now with the VAT and the introduction of the VAT. We have seen this. We have seen this in Dubai and Saudi, and how we prepared the market, how we had to talk to the Ministry of Finance, and how this is going to be, and how this will impact on people, business, and so on.
Hi, so my question is for Jeb. So because you're an international brand, how were you able from a very early age to meet the local customers' demands?
So, so in terms of localization, like I said earlier, we're quite nicely positioned in terms of being able to take the global expertise of American Express, and then with our local presence and of course our local staff, then make sure that it is tailored to the nuances and the requirements and preferences of people that are here locally.
Okay, I'm begging for one more question. Anyone? One? No? Okay. All right. So I think our time's up. So yeah, there's one more. Thank you. Comment or question? Go ahead.
No, comment. Can we ask Nadeem to answer the same question Noor asked about the expertise?
Yeah, can you just ask the question again?
About how to meet local demand for the younger generation early on.
Because I asked him because they come from an international perspective.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah, no, I think from CNN, at least perspective, we're on the ground with CNN Arabic for over about 18 years. It's been here, so we've grown with the market. We've seen the digital natives grow up. So we were here before mobile even started. So I think we have seen the change. We understand the market, and we feel part of it. We're part of the local scene, at least digital scene. So we didn't face that. I think American Express are similar. They've been here for a very long time, so they feel more of a local brand than an international one.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nadeem, Rahat, Ahmed, and Jeb. Thank you, lovely audience. I think, yes. I think different views, different thoughts on how to meet these challenges of facing the ever-growing, demanding, connected customer and consumer in the Arab region. So hope to hear more today and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And do make sure you come back later this afternoon for the results of the Amex Hack at the Track, which has been taking place for the past 24 hours inside. Thanks, guys. So next up, we have our last session before lunchtime, a quick 10-minute interview with Tap Payments in an elevator session. Please welcome to the stage Ali from Social Media Club and Ali from Tap Payments. Thank you very much. While they're making their way to the stage, I'd like to remind you to download the app for Unbound to keep abreast of the schedule and any changes, any announcements that we have. Just search Unbound Festivals in the App Store. Thank you very much.
Hello again, good afternoon everyone. We have another entrepreneur here with us from Kuwait, Mr. Ali Abu Hassan. talking about tap payments. Hi, Ali. Welcome to Bahrain.
Hello, Ali. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Good?
Excellent.
Hello, everyone.
So, Ali, can you tell us more about your business, Tap Payments? What is Tap Payments?
So we're an online payment service provider. What we try to focus on is simplifying the experience of online payments for merchants and consumers.
Okay, so it's a payment gateway?
We focus on providing the gateway, of course. It's a core product within our offering. We focus on multiple lines of payment verticals, the gateway being one of them, being a very tech-savvy-oriented payment gateway, while also being easy to use for non-tech-savvy clients. Aside from that, we also understand that there is a lot of commerce being conducted on social platforms, so we focus on simplifying the process of conducting payments on social media platforms.
That's nice. Is this based in Kuwait? Is it the Kuwaiti company?
We are based in Kuwait. We've been running for the past few years in Kuwait. We're actually the first payment provider that disrupted the payment industry in Kuwait, and now we're growing into the region, being present in Bahrain, Saudi, and UAE.
Excellent. How do you define entrepreneurship? I mean, why you decided to go into entrepreneurship and start this payment gateway? You told me that you earlier working with different companies.
Yes.
And now you have this company.
Well, it all depends on when you see a problem. If you do see a problem and you know how to solve it, or you're trying to figure out how to solve it, I think that is some key factor in any entrepreneur or someone that is trying to do some change to an industry. So I think the basic thing to be considered is solving a real problem and give an offering to the market.
Okay, nice. And you told me earlier you are a gateway for SMEs.
True.
So why SMEs are important?
Well, to be honest, we're in a market that is very fragmented, first of all, talking about the Middle East. So there's a lot of payment problems, and there are a lot of players trying to solve payment issues. But the SMEs, which is the future of the region, is very much underserved. We've been focusing a lot on this segment, and by doing so, we try to keep things very simple, and the adoption process of getting users to accept payments or conduct payments is a core value in what we provide.
Nice. So you told us that it's been there for a couple of years. You are moving to other countries, so it is a successful business.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Can you advise the entrepreneurs how it could be a successful business? How to run a successful business? What do you need exactly?
Number one, be persistent. Never give up, and have the right team with you.
The right team.
Yes, that's the very important part.
Excellent. And let's talk more about the payments. Why payments is important today? Is it cashless? Is it because we have the highest penetration in mobile? Why payment?
So basically, if you realize what's going on with the internet, the biggest competition, in my opinion, aside from cash, and what I mean by cash, it actually translates into time. Today, time is money. And as we are conducting a lot of activities on our daily lives, it makes a big difference on the time we spend on conducting anything that we do, whether it's communication, whether it's commerce, whatever type of activity you do in your daily life. And payments is a very strong pain point within any sales process that is very much underserved, and it's very particular within the industry stakeholders. There's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of role that needs to be taken from regulators, stakeholders, and players who are trying to innovate within this field itself. It does require a lot of effort, and it's a collaborative effort. It's not about one entity or one party trying to do this. It's a group effort within the fintech industry.
Fintech, that was my second question. So you talk about fintech and your company is fintech. What do you think of the fintech latest services that Bahrain is offering, like Fintech Pay,
I heard that you guys are also part of it. Can you tell us more about it?
True. Well, we're recently coming into Bahrain, and part of our presence here, we found out about the initiative from the EDB, taking with the Bahrain FinTech Bay. We believe it's a very positive initiative. It's a strong fintech hub that could serve Bahrain and the region, being a connector between Asia and the US for the region here in the Middle East. So being part of it, we believe in supporting it, being a founding member, and collaborating with fintechs that are within the fintech hub in order to spread technologies, innovation within the industry for the region. Of course, as I mentioned, it's a collaborative effort. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of expertise is required for the region itself, because the way how payments or fintech activities, financial activities are taking place in the region is somewhat little bit different than Europe, US, or Western markets and Asian, Eastern markets. So we need local expertise. We need a mixture of expertise between not only experienced, but also understanding the market itself. It's not about having only experienced people. So we believe in such initiatives, and we are happy to be part of it and supporting it.
Yeah, good for Bahrain, and thank you for contributing to the FinTech Bay. Tell us more about the entrepreneurship again, and what do you think entrepreneurs should do to succeed in their business? You talked about teams.
Yes.
So how do you start to be an entrepreneur?
First of all, don't start by yourself. It's very hard to start by yourself. Find a co-founder. That's very important. You need the emotional support, at least, because you're not going to get any financial support at the beginning. Take that by default. And it's going to be a lot of working hours. You need to be very hardworking. It's not going to be ending soon. It takes time. It all depends on the industry, and don't just look at the glamorous or the big names that are actually making it in 1 year, and then they have this really big exit or big media buzz on them. What you need to focus on, I guess, is having real operational growth. Having operational growth depends on taking risks initially as an entrepreneur, surrounding yourself with the right team in order to collaborate with one another, and then structure things as you grow very rapidly within the markets that you're entering. So it's in a way a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs, but at the same time, when it's down, you need to turn that down into an opportunity and be optimistic and stay positive, basically.
Well done. Thank you very much. How entrepreneurs can get in touch with you, how they can benefit from Tap Payments?
First of all, to benefit from Tap Payments, you just can go to our online website. We have an online chat. You can do everything by just submitting your details online. You don't need to talk to a person physically on the phone. Of course, we're also available on the phone and by email and face-to-face, but you can actually do everything without even talking with anybody face-to-face. So everything is done online. That's a core feature or a core way of communication that we take complete care and focus on with our clients. That's one. With myself, of course, after my talk, anyone who wants to talk to me, I can share my details.
Thank you very much, Ali Abul Hassan from Tap Payments from Kuwait. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to our interview. We see you later in the afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ali from Tap Networks. And thank you hugely to Ali from Social Media Club, who has been great interviewing these past 2 days. That was his last session of the day. Ali's spoken at over 200 conferences, so we're pleased to be his 201st. Now we are breaking for lunch, so please head over to the food trucks, and there'll be some snacks inside, and do come back. We're reconvening here at 2. There are some pitch sessions from the American Express Hack at the Track hack teams. They'll be presenting their solutions at the future stage between 1 and 3, if you want to head over there. But do join us this afternoon for the prize giving for the Hack at the Track and for the face-off at the track pitch sessions too, as well as the female founders panel. We'll see you here. Thank you very much.
Business friendly is not just a slogan. It's actually an aspiration that we challenge ourselves to live up to every single day.
You can find people from all over the world. It's a very open-minded country in the sense that everyone coexists very peacefully and amazingly here. It's just a really beautiful place to be.
I think what makes us unique is that if you arrive into Bahrain, you are likely to be driven in your taxi by a Bahraini, to be checked into your hotel by a Bahraini. You'll have an interaction with the people of the country.
We have a very high level of education in Bahrain. This has created a tech-savvy population that are always demanding for the latest technology.
Any young Bahraini woman who is looking to draw inspiration can just look all around her. There are women on boards, women who run family businesses, who are ambassadors, ministers.
We don't believe in zones for our businesses. We don't create a separate zone where that business can have certain privileges and ownership rights. We consider our whole country a zone.
Geographical position belonging to the GCC are very strong advantages.
In the late 60s, we took upon ourselves to diversify from oil, so we started our diversification program more than 40 years ago, and today we continue to do that.
Bahrain is very focused on developing a pipeline of infrastructure investment.
In total, we have about $32 billion worth of investments. We'll see projects materialize within the next 3 to 4 years.
It's part of a longer strategy, and certainly it will provide work. It will provide also opportunities for foreign companies to work downstream, to be part of construction.
We expect to have a large multiplier effect of the money being spent on these projects filter through the economy.
You only have to ask the investors that have been established here how much they've grown, how much they've enjoyed their presence here, and how lucrative it has been for them.
The one thing that I would choose above anything else in Bahrain is the people. They're my family.
What you will remember in any visit is the people you've met, the impressions they left you with. And I think you'll find in Bahrain that friendly, approachable population that you'll make friends with, you'll remember, and they'll stick in your mind with you.